Hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on the webinar today. This is hosted by Switch Packaging. So my name is Suzanne Walter, the marketing manager for Switch, and we will shortly be joining and starting. Joining me today is Mark Kirby, so the sales and commercial director, as you can see there, and Victoria Vetchakova as well, who is the business development consultant for Switch. So just a couple of housekeeping rules, just to let you know that this will be circulated post this webinar. So for any of you that want to keep muted as well and keep your video off as well, and we'll be distributing this post the webinar. So I will hand you over very shortly. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please do add them to the chat box, and we hope this to be a very interactive session. And now, I'm going to pass you over to both Mark to start and then Victoria to follow, and they'll be talking all about the latest design trends, material considerations, and looking at some previous case studies as well for packaging for both medical and electronic products. So now I will share my screen and hand you over to Mark. So over to you,
Suzanne. Thank you, Suzanne. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to our third webinar on bespoke and protective electronic and medical sustainable packaging. You can catch a series of previous webinars on our YouTube channel, and it'd be great if you could find the time to do that. My name is Mark Kirby, as Suzanne said. I'm the Sales and Commercial Director for Switch Packaging. I've worked in the packaging industry now for about 20 years and got a lot of experience within this specific sector or sectors. Joining me today, again, as Susan said, is Victoria Vetchakova, our Business Development Manager, who will shortly set the scene for us and introduce some sustainable packaging alternatives. We'll run through the full agenda in a moment, but I just want to repeat Suzanne's point and encourage you all to ask questions throughout using the chat box, which we will cover in a Q&A session at the end. So let's begin. So today, I want to give you an overview of some key material and design considerations for electronic and medical products. So one, Victoria will start by introducing packaging landscape. Two, then exploring the key requirements and considerations for packaging electronic and medical goods. I will then be talking you through the latest design trends and material capabilities. And finally, we'll look at some projects which help demonstrate what we have discussed. This will be rounded up with a Q&A session, as I mentioned, and with hopefully the answers that you're looking for at the end of it. So, starting with the landscape, over to you, Victoria.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's perfect. So let's begin by setting a scene. I'm sure that many of you have joined on here today knowing that there have been some radical changes in packaging materials and a rising need for sustainability. So firstly, touching on electronics and covers the wide range of industries, including consumer electronics, aerospace and defense, automotive, healthcare, other end user industries. And in fact, consumer electronics segment is one of the largest sectors in the market due to rising demands for products such as TVs, cameras, and extra. As a result of this, the electronic packaging market was valued at $1,020 million in 2020 and is expected to rise by 18.51% between 2021 and 2026, according to Malta Intelligence. Here on the map, you can see the market growth by region. In regards to the medical sector, it has often been criticised for being left from sustainable world and estimated for the 1 million tonnes for medical plastics available for recycling in the US and equivalent amounts to Europe and Asia. Perfect. So moving on. So having said that, the electronic packaging is set to rise for nearly 20% within the next 5 years, of knowing that a lot of medical packaging is based around plastic. So let's take a little look at the impact on our environment. Of the 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic that has been produced, 6.3 billion metric tons has become plastic waste. Of that, only 9% has been recycled. The vast majority, 79%, is accumulating to landfills. Much of our non-biodegradable packaging ends in landfills and can be incredibly dangerous to our environment. Landfills not only release large amounts of methane and other toxic chemicals, which can then contribute to global warming and groundwater pollution, but it can also result of loss of species. To help overcome this, the government has confirmed the introduction to plastic packaging tax from the 1st of April 2022, which is just under a month away. The tax claims to encourage greater use of recycled plastic to help tackle plastic waste, which means that from April 2022, you are looking at about 200 tax per tonne. The tax is led from the government, and this has been passed through the supply chain, ending with the consumers. Any plastic with 30% or less recycled material will be taxable. According to the Plastics Europe Market Research Group, here you can see that electrical equipment contributes to over 6% of plastic demands across the different sectors, and a whopping of 61% plastic demands are for the packaging sector. So this demonstrates the importance of tackling electronic plastic packaging. In relation to the plastic industry, the AAMC found a worldwide issue that globally 4.4% of all greenhouse gas emissions and over 5 million tonnes of waste come from hospitals. As well as this, the NHS creates 133,000 tonnes of plastic annually, with only 5% of this being recyclable. But this isn't all. So the rise of sustainability has dramatically increased, especially since the pandemic, as you probably all know. We have seen that 71% increase of Google searches and 81% of consumers are willing to pay more. 61% have limited use of single-use plastic, investing in more recyclable products, and 1 out of 3 have stopped purchasing certain brands due to the sustainability concerns. Sustainability not only improves your brand image, but is also more cost-effective and helps contribute to saving the planet. It is no longer a nice to have, but it is an essential to any business. So what else has changed over the last few years? There has been a surge of e-commerce, which is hugely important to the electronics world, and this is only set to rise. So buying preferences and behaviours have evolved and adapted, which has been a huge uplift to online buying. So we've seen that Amazon sales have gone up to 37% year on year in Q3 2020. Throughout the pandemic, many businesses have promoted and continue to make sales through e-commerce. In response to this surge, brands have had to review and upgrade their packaging or create new designs altogether, not only the material and how it looks, but reviewing the packaging lines, sizings, and designs. So now that we have explored the damages of plastic, I would just like to touch upon the difficulties for electronic and medical packaging briefly. If there are any factors which aren't touched upon obviously throughout this, please write them down in a chat and we can cover them in a Q&A session. So due to the nature of electronic and medical products, safely and sustainable packaging then can be a complicated task. These products tend to be expensive, fragile, electronically charged, susceptible to cross-contamination. For example, in a project we will cover later, we will demonstrate how electronically changed ECG connectors had to be kept isolated. I am sure that many of you will agree that this is very important to safely package your products, and throughout this presentation, we will give you guidance on how to do this. So one way to help reduce the issues raised on the previous slide is by creating intelligent and made-to-measure packaging. So the benefits of this would include your warehouse space. When you use electronic and medical packaging that is in the right size, it takes up more space than it needs in your warehouse, costing you more money. Saving warehouse space can become increasingly important coming years in the UK, experiences a shortfall in available storage space, making the most of the warehouses per square foot increase. It then comes to your health and safety. While it's impossible to avoid all work-based accidents, you can significantly reduce the risk by using packaging that fits the product. Doing so makes it a lot easier to move using forklift trucks, for example, reducing the amount of heavy lifting your staff have to do and the chances of them hurting themselves in a process. Almost 25% of the workplace injuries are due to handling, lifting or carrying. Transportation. According to research published in 2018, over 30% of business worldwide say that they're using packaging that at least 40% is too big for the product inside, leading to an extra 35 billion in transportation costs a year. The 40% extra or empty space is caused to become businesses rely on standardized packaging, which is designed to a certain size, rather than the size of the product it is shipping. By changing this around, so your electronic and medical packaging is designed to fit for your product, you can significantly reduce, if not eliminate, the empty space. This, in turn, lowers transportation costs because you can get more product into each delivery vehicle, meaning fewer trips are needed to deliver your product. It then also goes to damage. So in 2018, 40% of our consumers reported that the goods that they have received have been damaged in some way. Therefore, the damaged goods can't be sold, need to be sold at a discounted price, meaning they are likely to be returned to you, leaving you to cover the cost or to sell them on at a reduced price. Using a packaging that would be the right size reduces the likelihood of goods getting damaged because they are less likely to be shipped in transport. They are more securely packed within a delivery vehicle, meaning there is less empty space for them to be moved around. And lastly, less waste. So by reducing the amount of your packaging, consumers will have less waste to discard of, reducing the impact of the environment and landfill, as well as reducing cost to the manufacturer. Moving on, so that now that we have looked into the landscape, this leads us nicely into exploring the various alternative materials available and sustainable for your requirements, looking to meet the requirements of functionality, practicability, and recyclability. So we can start with pulp. So as we can assume that many more of you have been seeing the rise in pulp in the industry, especially with e-commerce and bespoke packaging requirements. So what exactly is pulp? Pulp is a renewable and biodegradable raw material made from recycled waste-based paper in virgin fibre. Was relatively new compared to some of the more traditional paper packaging materials, pulp's popularity and reputation as the go-to sustainable packaging option for large, bespoke, heavy, small, fragile products is fast growing. In fact, according to FMI, the moulded fibre pulp packaging market is anticipated to rise at 5.1% CAGR between 2021 and 2031, as compared to 3.2% CAGR registered during 2015 and 2020. The design's possibilities are endless, from end caps, trays, plates, bowls, clamshells, and there's a lot much more. So looking especially at electronic and medical products, pulp is the ideal choice for internal packaging. So here's some key benefits of pulp. It provides the highest level of protection due to its molding availabilities. It can be bespoke and made to measure. There are cost-effective and space-saving benefits. Sugarcane pulp can be used for hygiene purposes and to reduce risk of transmission. We will cover this more in the next slide, but as you can see, there's an example there. And is also able to be fully replaced polystyrene, benefiting the environment. In the next section, we will cover more specific design requirements for electronic and medical products, which pulp can achieve. So there are two types of pulp: recycle-based pulp and virgin fibre pulp. The latter is more widely used in the medical and electronic industries. So virgin fibre pulp is made from renewable and biodegradable raw materials. An example of bag-aged sugarcane, a sugarcane byproduct. You can see this on a screen now. So due to the nature of this raw material, this ensures that none of the fibre material is able to transfer to the product. All of our sugarcane bag-aids is certified to EN 13432 as a compostable product. This material is very durable and firm due to the fibrous texture and is used by companies where avoiding cross-contamination is essential. So I would like to introduce you now to pulp process briefly so you can have a clear understanding of how the designs are developed. So to start, to create a bespoke pulp design, which is fit for purpose, we look at the weight, breakability, dimensions of the product. This means that we look at the science behind the packaging so we could create a design that is required pulp weight, grade, and create fittings to hold products in place securely. So we want to overcome any previous breakage issues and make the design far more sustainable and also more efficient in the process. So once we know the technicalities of the products, we then create the designs we then create our designs using our in-house 3D CAD software that the client can then easily visualize the designs. So to start, a mold is designed especially for the product. As you can see on the image on the screen, the recycled paper is then heated, pressed, and then shaped during this to a pre-made mold. The molded pulp is then dried to ensure all the excess moisture has. The simple process of heating and drying makes the pulp corners so durable and tough that they can be used to protect the largest and most fragile of objects and outperform expensive polystyrene and foams. Once the pulp has dried, it is then ready to be used and safely packaged for the products during transit. So still keeping up the pulp, it can be then used as an alternative to help produce plastics bubble wrap. So our pulp pack and wrap is a simple step to reduce our cardboard footprint, adhere to corporate responsibility and create a great brand impression. The sustainable alternative to internal plastic protective packaging, such as bubble wrap and air cushions, provides the same level of protection, if not better, and best of all, is completely renewable, biodegradable, and it's eco-friendly. So it is available in sheets and can simply be torn to fit to the required size that you would need. So we know how popular corrugated is within the packaging industry. For electronic and medical products, this is more commonly used for outer boxes, with pulp being predominantly used for the insert. However, this is dependent on order numbers. So corrugated is a robust of easily accessible packaging material. It is manufactured with rows of air columns, making the paper stronger than average cardboard. The air acts as a cushion for the items inside of the packaging, and the ridges inside provide strength and flexibility to prevent any breakages. Corrugated can be considered your happy medium, and it provides a high level of protection and can be used to create beautiful visual designs. So the main key benefits would include recyclable and it's sustainable, lightweight and strong, and it is cost effective. So when we are looking at different types of packaging available, it is sensible to consider using multiple materials and exploring their benefits. So this is what we call composite packaging, and is becoming increasingly popular. So it is great to use different materials for different aspects of the design, and this is used often for more complicated and expensive packaging, such as electronic and medical products. So for example, as you can see on the screen, pulp can be used as an inner packaging for inserts, and the corrugated can be used as the outer packaging. So with packaging, it is also important to consider all areas to improve the sustainability of carbon footprint of the design, even down to tape that's being used. So craft paper tape is an eco-friendly and biodegradable alternative to single-use plastic tape. You can personalize this tape. You can have your logo added on there to add brand awareness. And also you can see it's environmentally friendly craft tape. So with electronic and medical products, especially, it is important to seal your boxes with good quality tape. Seal the edges with tape to prevent any wearing and the shake to the box. As you can see, the inner box is moving inside. If not, your item is then secure. So now that we have looked into the paper packaging alternatives for electronics and medical, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you over now to Mark, who will nicely lead us into the key design requirements and challenges for this sector, which we can obviously overcome. So over to you now, Mark. Mark, I believe you might be on mute.
Sorry, Mark.
I am. Thank you very much for that, Victoria. Thank you, Victoria. Okay, so let's look at protection, transport, and damage. So it is easy to recognise the difficulties faced within the electronic and medical industries. Being fragile and often expensive, any damage caused to these products during transit can prove quite costly, both for your business funds and reputation as well. This goes for damage caused by static charges too. Although the problem won't be noticed immediately when the product simply doesn't power on, isn't functioning correctly, or suffers from lifespan shortages, your packaging solution is likely to be blamed. Often these issues are created by the void space, which is the space between the edge of the product and the inside wall of the packaging. Failure to eliminate void space also causes stacking inabilities and damage to products within warehouse and transit as well. Using moulded pulp, we design our packaging to ensure there is zero void space to fill. We will show you some examples of this as we go through. So, with the nature of electronic and medical products, they often include glass screens and other fragile components. Whilst each project is unique, there are some standard steps which can be considered to avoid damages and breakages for specific components. For example, CDs and DVDs can be covered with corrugated sheets surrounded by a layer of pulp, pack and wrap, and then shipped in corrugated boxes. However, when designing bespoke packaging, using a material such as pulp, often a requirement to secure additional components becomes redundant due to its strength and molded abilities. Ensuring a medical device remains sterile until it reaches the end user is imperative to patient safety and overall user satisfaction. Device packaging serves as an important barrier against unwanted exposure to bacteria and other potential contaminants. If the packaging design falters and allows the seal to break, the sterile barrier is compromised and the device is just not usable. This is where the materials such as sugarcane pulp can help protect medical devices and reduce cross-contaminations. It's very important that you have an OCC pulp, for example, which is just standard brown pulp from old containers. Sometimes the fibres can come off onto the products, also causing a dust problem as well. With sugarcane, with the gas, you've got a virgin fibre where that just doesn't happen. So again, depending on the product, it is sometimes best to use sugarcane for that reason. As mentioned before, due to the fragility of these products, bespoke designs are often required to safely ship and transport. We get a lot of people approach us who are currently experiencing breakages, or they are guilty of leaving wasted space. Custom designs can suit all project requirements to help prevent these damages, especially for heavy objects such as computers or heart monitors. Protecting their sides and corners with bespoke designs is extremely important. This is where the pulp can be used to provide a high level of protection to prevent damage and breakages, and it can be moulded around virtually anything. Another element worth considering is that by reducing the size of the packaging, you can create less space in storage and transit, but also reduce your business carbon footprint at the same time. Specifically for the electronic and some medical products, static charges, or electrostatic discharge, ESD, is a sudden flow of electricity between two electrically charged objects. It can result in a range of issues for packaged electronic devices and can be caused by two separate events, either static electric, as we all know, or electrostatic induction. Whilst ESD may not necessarily cause visible damage, on its first instance, over time, repeated cases of ESD will shorten a product's lifespan and at worst case cause catastrophic failure. To be honest with you, it can sometimes reduce it by 50% in the lifespan. So how do you overcome this? In order to secure components and delicate devices against electrostatic discharge, bespoke and fit-for-purpose design is essential. When designed correctly, foams and films will no longer be needed. And this does come down to the design itself. Depending obviously where you put certain recesses, cavities, you can actually ensure that this doesn't actually happen. During transit, it's also important to consider shockproof and pressure-resistant packaging. Moulded pulp offers a very high level of protection, as much, if not more, than plastics. For example, trays and end caps provide shock and vibration resistance on impact, specifically useful for transportation. Pulp actually has a very absorbent natural effect, which is far more than, for example, polystyrene or foam. And because polystyrene, for example, breaks on impact, where pulp does not, pulp does serve better for that reason as well. Due to electronic and medical items being usually expensive during transit, they are prone to theft and tampering. For this reason, it's important to store your products securely. Tamper-proof labels are usually needed. To be honest with you, what we also recommend is that you don't brand the outside of the actual box itself, and therefore obviously making another sort of security feature at the same time. Unit quantities are also an important factor, which aren't often considered up front. This will influence material selection and design as well. For example, corrugated can be used for virtually all unit quantities, from the smallest to the highest, due to its being so readily available and established in its manufacturing process. However, pulp is only suitable for project units, normally around 10,000. It can vary. That's the sort of limit I would like to put on there to start with as a guide. This is due to upfront moulding costs, meaning that pulp wouldn't be feasible, economic or sensible options for units under 10,000. It's also a much more industrial process, so the machines themselves take a lot longer to set up. A big part of the cost is on setup. Therefore, when we do set them up, they need to be running for at least one day, hence the minimal quantity being higher. Efficient lead times are an important consideration, which is influenced by material selection. For example, corrugated has relatively short lead times, whereas pulp can be longer. To help improve lead times, we have introduced a stop and serve service, a service that is being used more and more by our clients now, where we can obviously bring in a higher quantity. Obviously, it's saving on cost as well, and then we can drip feed to you when is needed on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. This service does tend to work extremely well, especially when you really don't have that much storage to use yourself. As well as packaging itself, it's also important to consider the packaging design, lines, and process. With the correct advice, it's possible to create packaging which is more efficient in machine operations, space storage, protection, cost savings, logistics, and also reduce your company's non-recycled waste and storage. This actually works quite well in regards to, we've done a lot of designs recently. We've actually designed certain elements where the actual carton itself is even more protective than it was, still shows the brand, but actually runs through packing lines twice as fast. And also the hidden cost in that is huge, and there's another saving that can be made. Another way of optimizing packaging in considerations for stability, rigidity, stackability, especially products which are stored on shelves, is something also to bear in mind. Excuse me. Staying on brand repackaging is highly important. You want to be able to express your company's values and personality. Often electronic and medical items end up on shelves for consumers to choose from. It typically takes about 7 seconds for people to form an impression of your brand. So creating designs which stand out at the point of sale on the shelves, for example, can make all the difference. Other benefits include, it determines how your business stands out generally, builds concise brand personality, attracts new customers and keeps customers loyal. It's also meant to very much be bear in mind, and also establishes credibility in the products. Again, is vital. You can digitally print with eco-friendly ink onto the outer walls of your packaging with certain materials such as corrugated. High quality attention grabbing printing techniques can help you market your products and be point of differentiation at a retail outlet. Also for e-commerce as well, to be honest. For pulp, you can also emboss or deboss pulp. At the moment, you can't print on pulp, but we're confident in the future this will be possible due to new technical advances. You can flood coat pulp, but it does tend to, because again of machine feasibilities, it tends to put the minimal quantity up, and it can go up by 7 to 8 times more. So it's something to bear in mind. Also, to reiterate consumers' preferences for sustainable packaging, The Guardian conducted a study and found that 70% of consumers view brands that use sustainable packaging and recycled materials more favourably. It's important to remember that the natural look is often more popular these days to clearly indicate the sustainability of the product produced and also brand itself. So protection against impacts during transit, mishandling, moisture, dust, cross-contamination and static discharge are vital for successful electronic and medical packaging solutions. Now to look at some projects that we're working on specifically to this industry to showcase what we've really already gone through. So as you can see on the photo attached, here we have an example of electronic medical device. Technomed, a healthcare provider, hugely valued environmentally friendly products and was driven to help champion this change. Undergoing a complete rebrand, which involved reviewing their current packaging, together we introduced sustainable packaging for them. New to the world of custom packaging, the client came to us with mock-up designs looking to pack an ECG monitor and its additional components, which were transported by Ecommerce, funny enough. We worked with the team to create prototypes and finalise the packaging design, ensuring the products were securely held in place to avoid activation during transportation, which was a big concern of theirs. Bespoke moulded pulp was used as the packaging material for the insert to hold the ECG monitor in place securely, and corrugated was used for the actual outer box. Using sustainable composite packaging allowed us to incorporate different products, components into one universal design. Composite packaging is extremely popular for this reason alone. And it ensures the utmost protection as well. To align with their sustainable values and patient confidentiality, there was a conscious effort to keep the design looking as natural and modest as possible, and also to bear in mind, obviously, the security process behind it as well. Other environmentally friendly decisions were consciously made, such as using sustainable ink for the outer packaging, and this is of a water-based or vegetable dyed ink. Now, here, as you can see, we have a project working for a manufacturer of 3D printing components. For launching their new products, they wanted sustainable but also high quality packaging to reflect the premium product. Having approached us with this brief, we designed and created a sugarcane moulded tray design with a corrugated outer box. From this, we have designed 2 different trays to hold 2 different products. Using the same outer carton, the moulded tray is used to hold the spare components, plus individual cartons for single nozzles on their own in 4 different sizes. It's not always possible to have one tray that fits all, and we do try to obviously rationalise as much as possible to save on cost for the clients, but sometimes it is not feasible. So more than one tray does have to be used. We advise on Pulp to remove the need for plastics and foam to align with their sustainable ethos. The new design is very versatile and works with a wide range of their product offerings. Now, as you can see on the screen, for this client, they were previously using plastic blister packs with backing boards to show their devices in several different configurations of solid scrubber brushes and additional brush heads. This meant there were several different SKUs that they wanted to rationalise into one set of type of package, used for both e-commerce and also retail display. We are designing both a pulp fitting that can be universal across several different ranges, removing the need for so many different SKUs, and an outer carton which will be branded and printed for each individual product. Both products are fully recyclable and sustainable and can be used to store the products in when not being used as well. The pulp tray is also designed to accommodate future configurations of products when they come up with them and when they come to market. Now, here is a client wanting to have a universal pulp tray lid combination to protect the lighting processes and display screens in transit to send out internationally. This company also actually is responsible for lighting up the London Eye, for example. So in the images on screen, you can see the prototype of the packaging, and it's designed to package 2 different products. In total, the tray had to be able to cater for 5 different products, one at a time, whilst also being able to hold future products not yet created, as well as the additional components that went with them, such as connectors, screws, the like. Using this product, they can move away from using jiffy bags and foam to protect the products. So we're using old outer cartons to something more sustainable and unique to them. Again, being very bespoke. Now, the next example is Samsung. So here we can see an example of how Samsung, a global company, have recently switched to pulp packaging. Whilst we weren't involved in this packaging, we thought it was a good example worth demonstrating. Samsung announced that in 2019, it had begun phasing out plastic from its packaging materials, pledging to replace the plastic it had used for its holder trays with mouldable pulp, in addition to other measures such as doing away with plastic protection films. In addition to this, Samsung will also alter the phone charger design, swapping the glossy exterior with a matte finish and eliminating plastic protection films, reducing the use of plastics overall. It is great to see market leaders committing to reduce their plastic usage and to select more sustainable products like moulded pulp. Okay, now some top tips. So that's it in regards to the presentation. I hope that you've given it's given you a good background in understanding of the different paper packaging materials available and design considerations for electronic and medical products. I've highlighted 4 key take-home messages to finish up on, which I think is really important. So again, always avoid wasted space. Consider made-to-measure packaging. Research the alternative materials that are out there, and consult before you commit, which is, I think, one of the most important messages to send out. And medical packaging can sometimes seem a bit of a minefield, and it sometimes really can, which is why at Switch we hope to guide and support in making the process easy, simple, ultimately taking the pressure off. Let's be honest, we've all got a lot of pressure at the moment in all different industries. Let's build a better future for our children and future generations. Collaborate and change our approach now so that they won't have to worry about the quality of life or the environment that they're surrounded in the future. At Switch, we are proud that we can source and create packaging alternatives that look great, are protective and cost effective, but most importantly, are recyclable, compostable, and biodegradable. Okay, on to the Q&A session. So lastly, let's move to the session. If we aren't able to answer all your questions now due to time, we'll make a note of them and send you an email directly, come back to you directly. So Suzanne, would you please be able to feed some questions to us so we can start that process?
Lovely. Thank you both very much. Mark and Victoria, it was really insightful, and I know there are some interesting points touched up on there. So in terms of the first question from, is pulp as protective as polystyrene? For example, heavy items I'm imagining they're relating to, such as monitors and those kind of digital electronic components.
Yes, they actually can be more protective. So again, with polystyrene, if it drops, if it bangs, it can tend to crumble, can tend to fall apart because of the material. Pulp doesn't do that, and it actually being a paper-based product, it absorbs the impact more as well. So it can be more protective going forward.
Is pulp as readily available in the UK as polystyrene?
It is readily available, yes. To be honest with you, in regards to capabilities and capacity, it actually has probably more capacity than polystyrene.
Lovely. Okay, and the second question, so how long does it take for sugarcane pulp to biodegrade? Good question.
It can take only up to 4 to 5 weeks, where if you're looking at polystyrene or plastic device, it can take sometimes up to 500 years.
Okay, thank you very much. One from Jane. So you mentioned the rise of e-commerce and your stop and serve service. Can you help with the fulfillment side of things in terms of packaging?
Yes, we can. We do have a fulfillment side of the business, of which can actually help. Sometimes it's actually easier to do that as well. If you can do it all in one chain, it makes it more efficient for the chain, brings costs down, makes it more effective, and it's something that we definitely would like to talk to people about. Yes.
It's nice also to have that environmental ethos running through both services as well, the design and the fulfillment side as well, I can imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, the environmental stance on it obviously is quite big as well. So it just helps to launch that environmental factor even more so, definitely.
Lovely. Okay. And the last question we have, unless anyone has any others they want to chuck in quickly, is do you stock these standard fittings for electronic products such as laptops?
We don't stock any standard fittings. Everything we do here is bespoke. It's made to measure, and although there are obviously several sort of phone lines and laptop lines that are very similar, you will find that there's still a slight difference. However, Obviously, if you've got a range and you've got 4 or 5 items that are roughly the same, then it is possible to design something that is one size that will fit your range specifically. It's something we look at on a bespoke basis.
Perfect. Actually, one question has just popped in. So in a packaging of consumer durables such as jams or similar products in a glass bottle, is bagasse preferable or recycled paper pulp?
Can you repeat that, Suzanne? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. In a packaging of consumer durables such as jams or similar products in a glass bottle, is bagasse preferable or recycled paper pulp?
Recycled paper pulp is probably preferable. So again, it depends on what you're after. So if you're looking at a sort of image, if you like, as well as protection, you could look at a sugarcane, a bagasse. However, if you just want it to be nicely protected and to be presentable, but to have that pure protection, I would go for a traditional OCC pulp.
Perfect. Okay. Believe that is everything there. Mark's contact and Victoria's contact details are both on screen. Unless anyone's got any other questions, this webinar will be circulated shortly, early next week. And in the meantime, I thank everyone for joining, and thanks especially to Mark and Victoria. Great job, and some really insightful comments there.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Thank you everyone for listening as well.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.